Their electric vehicles. Warren Buffett owns 10% stake in that. Why do you laugh? BYD is trying to compete. Why do you laugh?
Have you seen their car?
It is the laugh that aged terribly. Back then, Elon Musk saw them as a joke, a minor annoyance from the East. But fast forward to today, that smug smile has completely vanished. Right now, the Western automotive world is staring into the abyss. European giants are in full panic mode, Tesla is losing its crown, and governments are desperately throwing up tariff walls. Why? Because they realize that if they do not stop this juggernaut now, they will be completely wiped out. But do not fall for the media narrative. This is not about luck, and it is definitely not about cheap copies. This is the story of a brutally calculated engineering masterclass, executed over 3 decades in total silence. How did a penniless chemist turn a bankrupt battery factory into an empire that is now rewriting the rules of global power? Welcome to The Real Threat. To understand how BYD became a monster, we have to go back to 1995. Wang Chuanfu was a young chemist with a simple goal. He wanted to build rechargeable batteries, but he had a massive problem. He had no money. At that time, Japan dominated the battery industry. Companies like Sony used advanced automated factories that cost millions of dollars. Wang could not afford a single robot, so he did something crazy. He replaced the robots with human hands. Instead of one multi-million-dollar machine, Wang hired hundreds of workers. He broke down the complex manufacturing process into simple manual steps. It worked. BYD was producing batteries at a fraction of the cost of their Japanese competitors. Soon, tech giants noticed. When you bought a Nokia or a Motorola phone in the early 2000s, there was a huge chance the battery inside was made by BYD. By the year 2003, Wang Chuanfu was the king of mobile batteries, but he was not satisfied. He looked at the massive cash reserves he just made from Nokia, and he decided to gamble it all on a dying industry. He bought a failing, bankrupt state-owned car manufacturer. Everyone thought he was insane. His investors panicked, and the stock crashed by 20% in a single day. But Wang did not care about internal combustion engines. He did not buy a car company to make gas cars. He bought it because he realized that a modern electric vehicle is just a giant smartphone battery on wheels. In the year 2008, a legendary American investor did something that shocked Wall Street. Warren Buffett, the man known for investing only in safe, traditional companies, bought a 10% stake in a virtually unknown Chinese car company called BYD. His partner, Charlie Munger, was the one who convinced him. Munger told Buffett that Wang Chuanfu was a combination of Thomas Edison and Jack Welch. He said he had never seen a guy like this in his entire life. Buffett invested $230 million. It was a massive validation, but the road ahead was anything but smooth. For the next 10 years, BYD was a ghost in the West. While Elon Musk was capturing global headlines with the gorgeous Tesla Model S and transforming electric cars into luxury status symbols, BYD was doing the unglamorous work. They were not building high-end sports cars, they were building electric buses, garbage trucks, and cheap, boring taxicabs for Chinese cities. To the outside world, BYD looked like a local player that could never compete on design or tech. Their cars were criticized for being ugly and low quality. Wall Street analysts repeatedly claimed that Warren Buffett made a rare mistake and that BYD would crash and burn. But Wang Chuanfu was playing a completely different game. He did not care about short-term stock prices or making cool cars for rich celebrities in California. Wang used this decade of silence to achieve something far more dangerous: vertical integration. While Tesla and every other legacy car manufacturer relied on complex global supply chains, buying batteries from one company, microchips from another, and steel from someone else, Wang decided to make everything inside the factory walls. BYD started producing its own batteries, its own electric motors, and even its own computer chips. They mastered the entire pipeline. By the time the late 2010s arrived, the global automotive industry was facing a massive battery shortage. But BYD had unlimited supply. They were fully armed, completely independent, and ready for the ultimate confrontation. The year 2024 will be remembered as the moment the trap finally snapped. For years, Western automakers believed they had time to transition to electric vehicles. They thought their brand heritage and premium status would protect them. They were wrong. Wang Chuanfu unleashed his ultimate weapon, an electric car called the BYD Seagull. It was not a luxury sports car meant to compete with the Tesla Model S. It was a compact, modern electric vehicle packed with great technology. But the real shockwave was the price tag. The car launched at under $10,000. For the Western automotive industry, this was a mathematical impossibility. European and American legacy manufacturers could not even buy the raw materials for that price, let alone build and ship a fully functioning vehicle. This was the direct result of Wang's decades-long bet on making everything in-house. Because BYD controls its own battery production, mining, and microchips, they have a cost advantage that no one on Earth can match. The reaction from the West was instant panic. Elon Musk, the man who laughed at BYD 13 years earlier, completely changed his tone. He publicly admitted that without trade barriers, Chinese electric car companies would pretty much demolish most other car companies in the world. Suddenly, the free market champions started building walls. The United States and the European Union slapped massive, unprecedented tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. They tried to frame it as a defense against unfair subsidies, but the truth is much simpler. It was a desperate move to buy time for Western brands that were completely out-engineered and outpaced, but tariffs cannot stop a tidal wave. BYD bypassed the walls by building massive new factories directly inside Europe, South America, and Southeast Asia. The chemist, who started with 20 employees making phone batteries, had successfully built a juggernaut that now dictates the future of global transportation. Elon Musk wanted to conquer Mars, but while his eyes were fixed on the stars, Wang Chuanfu quietly conquered the Earth. For a long time, Western experts comforted themselves with one myth. They believed that while China could build cars cheaply, they could not innovate. They thought Western engineering would always remain superior, but BYD shattered that illusion with a single invention: the blade battery. Traditional electric car batteries were bulky, inefficient, and most importantly, dangerous. If they were damaged in a crash, they could catch fire and burn at extreme temperatures. Wang Chuanfu's engineers completely redesigned the battery structure. They created long, thin cells that looked like blades. Not only did this pack way more energy into the same space, but it also achieved something incredible: safety. During the famous nail penetration test, where a steel nail is driven straight through a fully charged battery, traditional batteries exploded into flames. The BYD blade battery did not emit any smoke or fire. The surface temperature remained completely safe. This technology was so revolutionary that even their fiercest rivals had to surrender. Today, Tesla uses BYD blade batteries inside some of its own Model Y vehicles built in Europe. But Wang did not stop with pure electric cars. He perfected a new generation of plug-in hybrids, cars that can travel over 2,000 kilometers on a single tank of gas and a full charge. BYD stopped being a cheap alternative. They became the technological benchmark that everyone else is now desperately trying to copy. To build millions of electric vehicles, you need raw materials, millions of tons of lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements. And this is where the West lost the war before it even started. While Western car manufacturers were focusing on quarterly profits and pleasing Wall Street, companies like BYD and the Chinese government were quietly buying up the planet. They secured massive stakes in lithium mines across South America and signed exclusive, long-term deals for cobalt in Africa, but owning the mines was only step one. The real masterstroke was the refining process. Today, even if a Western company extracts lithium in Australia, there is a massive chance it has to be shipped straight to China, just to be processed into battery-grade material. China effectively built a global monopoly on the ingredients of the future. BYD created a vertical empire that controls the resource from the raw dirt in the ground to the finished vehicle rolling off their own massive shipping vessels. When global supply chain shortages strike and Western brands are forced to queue up, pay premium prices, or halt production, BYD simply turns on its own taps. They are completely immune to global crises. It is a shadow empire that waited decades for the perfect moment to strike, and that moment is now. The battle for the future of cars is no longer about legacy, history, or who has the coolest brand heritage. It is a geopolitical chess game about who controls the technology and the supply chain. For the past century, Detroit, Wolfsburg, and Tokyo dictated how the world moved. They held all the power. But that era is officially over. Wang Chuanfu showed the world that true dominance is not bought with loud marketing, campaigns, or celebrity endorsements. It is built layer by layer, factory by factory, in absolute silence. The next time you see an electric car on the street, do not just look at the badge on the front. Look deeper, because the real power shift is already happening under the hood. The joke is no longer funny. The game has changed, and the rules of the world are now being written in China.
Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you want more, check out these videos. Also, please consider subscribing to the channel. As an automotive engineering student, I'm passionate about making these deep dives into EVs and tech. My name is Bart, and hopefully, see you next time.